ahead, Tzu Chi's rice distribution in Haiti inspires Boy Scout and police officers to experience the joy of giving. Tzu Chi volunteers across the globe teach members of the public the correct way to observe the 7th lunar month. Welcome to DaAi Headlines. I'm Helen Liao. Thank you for joining us. At a recent aid distribution in Haiti, Tzu Chi volunteers from the United States teamed up with local Boy Scouts and police officers, giving them a chance to experience compassionate giving. Local volunteers also help a recipient carry their supplies home, while UN peacekeepers help maintain order at the venue.
The earthquake may have devastated Haiti, but it also brought Tzu Chi volunteers here. Once again, U.S. volunteers have returned to distribute aid, this time to residents living near the Boy Scout headquarters.
We are going to distribute aid to 700 households living within the immediate 4 districts. Every household will get 2 bags of rice.
As the country imports most of its foods, in the past, riots broke out due to rising food prices, which left citizens unable to afford even the most basic of foodstuffs. However, all is calm at Tzu Chi's distribution. Scouts and police officers are also present to help pass on this gift of love in a respectful and loving Tzu Chi manner.
It's a big pleasure for us to come here to accompany you to help Asian people.
Local volunteers stand ready to help the elderly and women carrying the heavy bags of rice home. After learning the rice came from Taiwan, everyone expresses their gratitude.
Merci Taiwan! Merci Tzu Chi! Merci Tzu Chi!
UN peacekeepers also helped maintain order at the venue until the event was over.
Moving to Taiwan, we meet Tzu Chi volunteer Zhang Huijuan, who visits the Penghu Hospital on a daily basis to practice recycling. Following the Trans-Asia Airways crash, besides tending to the family members of victims at the incident at the funeral home, Zhang also seized the chance to practice recycling on site. Touched by Zhang's dedication, many family members decided to sort their garbage.
Penghu Tzu Chi volunteer Zhang Huijuan arrived in Kaohsiung on July 23rd for DaAi Mothers Seminar. But after learning of the plane crash back home, she felt she had to do something.
I was extremely worried and hoped that I could find some way to provide assistance and my blessings to the victims and their families.
Leaving the seminar, Zhang flew back to Penghu. After she arrived, she went straight to the local funeral home where an emergency rescue center had been set up by Tzu Chi. Zhang was there to assist the victim's family, as well as help with recycling.
I found that by doing so will lead others to do the same. In the end, they did the work themselves and gave us their recyclables.
Zhang collects the garbage she sees around the funeral home and shares with others the importance of protecting the environment. Every day, she will bring the collected recyclables to a nearby Tzu Chi recycling station. Zhang's efforts have also reached out to include Penghu Hospital, where she has become a familiar face.
我伫指导府也嘛拄着伊啊，之前嘛拄着，有天天几乎是天天啦。
好，这里是半天啊，等一下第2批的会再拿过来。半天就有。
By using every minute to the fullest, Zhang shows the blessings that living a life of goodness can create.
Following the Trans-Asia Airways plane crash in Penghu, Taiwan, local Tzu Chi volunteers immediately mobilized to provide assistance. Working in teams, some went to the scenes at the crash, some went to the disaster response center, while others went to hospitals. Many of the volunteers have prior experience in handling such tragedies, as they were also there when China Airlines Flight 611 crashed off the shores of Penghu Island some 12 years ago.
Returning to the scene of the tragedy, Chen Yongting recalls that the night Trans-Asia Airways GE222 crashed, he was attending a wedding.
I told my sister that something came up and I had to leave.
Receiving word of the tragedy, Chen immediately changed into his Tzu Chi uniform and headed to the disaster site.
All ambulances were dispatched to transport the deceased.
When China Airlines Flight 611 crashed into the sea near Penghu over 10 years ago, Tzu Chi volunteers were there to help. Learning from that experience, volunteers are now more proficient at providing the type of assistance needed.
We were there when the plane crashed back on May 25, 2002. We saw many of the same things.
The night of the accident, 71-year-old Xu Changci stayed at the scene until 2 a.m.
Master Zhenyan taught us that we should only leave when the job is done. We left only after they moved all the stuff and taped off the area.
Among the volunteers mobilized that night was Cai Youren, who serves in Penghu's traffic police department. After getting word at home, Cai headed out the door without dinner.
I went to the fire station because there was already a disaster response center set up.
With access to the latest updates, Cai set up teams to look after those who needed emotional support.
The soldiers who were the first responders are our top priority because being in their 20s, they are practically still children.
Taking care of military personnel, Tzu Chi volunteers prepared bread rolls for them to eat. During this time of recovery, Tzu Chi volunteers are trying to provide a sense of peace among the emotional turmoil.
Taiwan's Alishan National Scenic Area is home to many majestic trees and precious wildlife. Unfortunately, the trees that have made their home here have also become the target of poachers. To make sure future generations can enjoy the greenery of the mountain resort, 14 forest rangers are constantly on patrol.
Our basic gear includes a raincoat, a machete, a map, GPS, a walkie-talkie, and a camera.
A forest ranger in Taiwan carries up to 7 kilograms worth of equipment, but a poacher carries.
3 poachers might carry firearms like hunting rifles or even illegal handguns and such. At daybreak, forest rangers head into the mountains on scooters. Where the road ends, they begin to hike. Even this nearly 90-degree slope is not a problem.
阿里山工作站2、3呼叫，收到请回答。工作站收到了，有话请讲。
My most unforgettable experience would be this one time while on a long-range patrol where I nearly fell because of a misstep. Luckily, I managed to grab onto some grass. I only realized it was about a 5-story drop later.
The Alishan National Scenic Area is vast in area. The 14 forest rangers stationed here must have strength and stamina and must also be ready to withstand the varying climatic conditions.
Sometimes the patrol takes only a day, but there are also 3 to 5 day trips and 5 to 7 day long-range patrols. Due to the higher elevation, it can get pretty cold. Basically, we make our own trails.
They must make it to their destination and file a written report. They need to have incredible stamina and be knowledgeable about animals, plants, and forest rehabilitation.
Only 2 of the rangers are women. Over 50 years old, Hu Silan used to work in wholesale but made a career change 18 years ago. She is just as capable as the guys.
Say if a typhoon warning is in effect, we can't rest at home like normal people. We still have to head out and be on the lookout for hazards, such as a broken bridge or floods. We have to help citizens evacuate promptly.
After happening across a track made only possible by a rolling trunk, the rangers pick up their pace. Sadly, as they had feared, a precious cypress was illegally chopped down and stolen.
Having patrolled these mountains for so many years, my heart still aches every time when I see a tree has been poached.
Preserving the greenery of the forest is why we all sign up for the job.
When they go on long patrols, rangers sleep under makeshift tents and feast on instant noodles.
Typically, when we come up on the mountains, we try to pack light. We usually bring instant noodles or ready-to-eat foods. See, for lunch we're having instant noodles.
To stop poachers, the rangers make their home in the woods up high, and for the sake of Taiwan's precious forests, they continue to climb mountain peak after mountain peak.
In the United States, for the past 8 years, Dallas Tzu Chi volunteers have been hosting vegetarian events during the 7th lunar month to encourage the public to go meatless. Meanwhile, in New Jersey, Tzu Chi volunteers chanted the Earth Treasury Sutra along with Dharma masters in Hualien's Jingsi abode to pray for peace and harmony. But first, we go to Taiwan, where the Buddhist NGO joins hands with the Hualien City office to educate members of the public on the correct way to mark the 7th lunar month.
感恩欢喜7月
To help the public observe the 7th lunar month in the correct manner, Tzu Chi Foundation joined hands with the Hualien City office and recorded a new tune for the city's garbage trucks, which is played to alert people of the truck's arrival in their neighborhoods.
The new way to observe the 7th lunar month is to have a heart of joy and gratitude. We hope members of the public can stop burning jazz paper, go vegetarian, and most importantly, cultivate blessings through love.
This is the first time I've heard about this, and I think it is great. Through such events, volunteers can promote their ideals far and wide.
这个新三生的一个观念啊，把它传播出去。
好，主席，请看一下。
Hualien City representatives placed peace chimes on garbage trucks, hoping to bring peace to the drivers and members of the public.
I feel more at ease now. This year, I hope everyone can go to work safely and return home safe and happy.
At the end of the event, 70 cleaning crew and volunteers prayed together for peace and blessings for all sentient beings. 7 o'clock in the morning, U.S. Tzu Chi volunteers and members of the public gathered at the Tzu Chi New Jersey chapter to chant the Earth Treasury Sutra.
The power of chanting is really large. I think this has been wonderful.
Through a video conferencing call, volunteers and members of the public chant the Earth Treasury Sutra along with Hualien's Jingsi abode Dharma masters.
Through chanting the Earth Treasury Sutra, we hope to dedicate the merit to our deceased loved ones. I hope the Earth Treasury Bodhisattva can protect participants and the Tzu Chi brothers and sisters who couldn't make it to today's event.
Among those attending the event is volunteer Chris, who, regardless of language barriers, still prays sincerely and immerses himself in the Dharma.
Well, it's wonderful to be with the group, so it's a really nice, warm feeling. Even though I don't understand all the words, or actually any of the words, it's still just such a good energy in the room, and it really makes you feel good.
Meanwhile, at the Tzu Chi Dallas chapter, for the past 8 years, Tzu Chi volunteers have been encouraging the public to go vegetarian as a way to replace the burning of joss paper to honor the dead.
Many disasters have occurred within the last 2 to 3 weeks. If everyone can go meatless, I think our world will be at peace very soon.
Right now, it is the auspicious 7th lunar month. We are cooking meatless dishes to create good affinity with members of the public.
Inside the kitchen, volunteers have been working since early morning to prepare vegetarian meals for participants. Among the volunteers is Lo Fengming, who was inspired to join Tzu Chi following last year's vegetarian event.
The 7th lunar month is an auspicious month. Master Zhenyan told us that we need to go meatless because it is good for our planet. Vegetarianism is good for our body. This year, I want to do more volunteer work.
I always feel more relaxed and healthier after eating vegetarian meals here.
Placing each dish on the table with extra attentiveness, Dallas Tzu Chi volunteers not only showed their utmost respect for the participants, but Tzu Chi's etiquette as well. To mark the start of the 7th lunar month, Tzu Chi volunteers in Malaysia hosted 5 blessing ceremonies at the Kuala Lumpur Jingsi Hall, with 730 participants attending the first ceremony. Meanwhile, in Taiwan, to dispel superstitions about what is believed to be Ghost Month and encourage people to go meatless and cherish our planet, various blessing ceremonies were held in the Greater Taipei area.
Praying with a sincere heart, some 400 people of the Songshan district in Taipei metropolitan area are responding to the environmental cause of no burning of just paper during the 7th lunar month.
It is often said that harmony in a family brings success to everything. If we cannot cultivate goodness, then we can create a harmonious society.
Tzu Chi volunteers of the Songshan Liaison Office made it easier for the white-collar worker to observe the 7th lunar month in the correct manner by preparing a vegetarian lunch for them. Meanwhile, Zhongshan District volunteers spread environmental concepts through a sign language performance. Among the participants at the blessing ceremony was young Huang Ziyang, who has been a vegetarian for 6 years. His commitment remains undeterred even when he meets friends at a fast food restaurant.
When I go out with my classmates, while they are all eating hamburgers, I just play on my phone. No.
The small truck makes its way inside the park. Despite the downpour, preparations for the blessing ceremony presses forward. The rain decreases as volunteers finalize the setup of the venue. As the event kicks off, residents find a sense of calm from the chanting of the Buddha's name. Ji Jingxian, whose affinity with Tzu Chi was formed 6 years ago during a time when her husband was ill, is a regular at the event.
Each time we attend these events, I will feel that we are not the most disadvantaged. There are still many people out there that need our help.
To encourage members of the public to accumulate blessings, volunteers also prepared coin banks for everyone to deposit their kind words and good thoughts on a daily basis. Where does one withdraw money in the underworld? This short sketch is to educate participants that the 7th lunar month is in fact a month of joy, auspiciousness and gratitude.
I used to be very careful of the places I went to during this month.
I will try to make it home earlier during the 7th lunar month, but after learning some correct concepts today, I feel there's nothing I need to be afraid of.
5 blessing ceremonies will be held at the Kuala Lumpur Jinsi Hall. For many, spending their evenings outdoors during the 7th lunar month was once taboo. However, the first blessing ceremony saw more than 730 participants take part. While chanting the Earth Treasury Sutra, many came to appreciate the scripture's underlying meaning.
I feel like it's a story telling us to be more vigilant and not to commit wrongdoings. When I'm reading the scripture, I feel like I'm reading a story that inspires correct views.
As the Earth Treasury Sutra is a sutra on great filial piety, present were participants who hope to dedicate the merits generated from the chanting of the sutra to family members.
I want to dedicate the merits of the sutra to my mother. She hasn't been in the best of health lately, and the doctors suspect she may be ill. So I want to take this opportunity to do that.
Instilling the correct views of the 7th lunar month, volunteers encourage participants to live out the concepts of right faith, vegetarianism and green living in their daily lives to bring peace and blessings to all.
In China, prior to their upcoming winter aid distribution, Tzu Chi volunteers in all corners of the country mobilized to carry out home visitations. In Xiamen, Fujian province, this year local volunteers plan to aid some 8,000 residents in total. Recently, the volunteers began their initial survey for the needy families.
Learning of the volunteers' arrival, 97-year-old Grandma Chen excitedly shares her stories. To help the hearing-impaired senior better understand, the volunteers move closer when talking to her.
We are the volunteers from Taiwan's Tzu Chi Foundation. Master Zheng Yan asks us to send her blessing to you.
It's good to have you come here. You remember me, so you came to visit me.
Seeing how the senior has to squeeze in this tiny little space cluttered with unwanted items, the volunteers feel sorry for her.
We think seniors deserve to live in a better living environment. It should be our responsibility to offer them a decent life. Seeing the environment she lives in, I feel so sad.
Spending most of his life raising his kids, Kershaw now lives in the company of illness.
I'm in so much pain that I can't even move my arms or body. I cannot walk on my own either.
Learning of cursed misery, the volunteers offer their encouragement.
Master Zheng Yan encourages us to be open-minded in the face of misfortune. Though you are alone, you should extend more of your blessings to your children.
44-year-old Ke Wei-yi suffered brain damage from a high fever when he was 5. Despite being mentally challenged, Ke remained dear to his mother.
She has looked after her child for 39 years. Perhaps she blames herself for not taking better care of her son. Her motherly love is truly great.
The affinity with our children is something we should hold dear. We need to take good care of ourselves and not let our children worry about us. We hope you can leave your worries behind and find peace in life.
During the home visitations, Tzu Chi volunteers have reached out to those in need and remain ever more determined to prepare for their upcoming aid distribution.
Although Yi County of China's Hebei province is only 120 kilometers away from the prosperous Beijing city, it is like a forgotten realm where residents are constantly plagued by diseases and poverty. Tzu Chi volunteers have long been carrying out relief work in this region and have recently revisited in preparation for the upcoming winter aid distribution.
Keeping these principles in mind, volunteers arrive in Yi County to carry out home visitations in 5 townships. This household has already set aside chairs ready to welcome the volunteers.
您是自己还种地吗？种地。几亩地啊？30亩的吧。30亩地。
Volunteers first learn about this couple's health conditions and the yield of their farmland, and accidentally discover they make handicraft to make ends meet.
Your fingers have to be wet in order to roll it together, otherwise it can't be done.
Volunteers chat with locals just like families. Despite the 36 degrees Celsius high temperature, the home visitation continues. At the end of the day, volunteers visited a total of 258 households across 3 villages.
小小的一点心意，然后种地的一个心意。谢谢你哎。不用谢谢你啊，我看到你就好高兴啊。好，特别软，对，软的尝一下。好吃吗？哈，好，好好的咬着，你看有这么孝顺的媳妇，是吧？哈，你看奶奶也很好，爷爷好，好。 开心了是吧？
Winning over hearts with perseverance and sincerity, even the accompanying official has been touched.
You have really moved us and taught us a valuable lesson on human interaction. You gotta make friends and move people with your heart.
The destitute Yi County, though just 120 kilometers away from Beijing, feels warm because of Tzu Chi.
We go to Malaysia's Kota Tinggi at the end of the show. Upon learning that a care recipient is sick and unable to tend to his rundown home, Tzu Chi volunteers quickly arrive to give his house a makeover and a thorough cleanup. We'll leave you with these images. Thank you for watching DaAi Headlines. Goodbye.